The views or opinions expressed on Ann Arbor Inclusive do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the City of Ann Arbor and the Commission on Disability Issues. For more information about the Ann Arbor Commission on Disability Issues, please visit a2gov.org/disability resources.
Hello everyone and welcome to Ann Arbor Inclusive. I'm Zach Damon. We have a wonderful show for you today as John Krienke of the Ann Arbor Area Lions Club and Austin Shepard of the WISD Leo Club join us in studio. Well, gentlemen, let's get things rolling. And first of all, John, the Lions Club has been around almost a century and is a worldwide organization that started in 1917. What circumstances led you to becoming involved with the Lions Club?
Well, like many Lions, I became involved because somebody asked me to join. And I was looking for an opportunity to connect with the larger community, but I had no idea what Lions were about. But I went to this meeting and found out a little bit about, this was before that we had the internet, so you couldn't really go anywhere to find out about Lions except through a meeting and joining. And that's what I did. And so I joined and I started learning about Lions.
That's wonderful. How long have you been a Lions member?
I joined in 1976.
Wow.
And so I've been a long time, yes.
That's wonderful. Now, many have heard the name Lions, but are not aware of what they do. Can you tell us a bit about what the organization does?
Well, Lions, we are a volunteer service organization to set up to serve, first of all, the community that we're in.
Yeah.
But we also reach out to the state and actually internationally through the Lions Club International.
Sure.
And so we work all kinds of community projects, but several, in 1925, when Helen Keller came to the International Convention.
Oh, did she really?
Yes, and it was in Cedar Point, so right
wow.
next door.
Wow.
And she had just become involved with a national organization for blind, and was their diplomat, and so she came to the Lions Club. And actually, she was hoping they invited her mentor Sullivan to give a talk.
Wow.
But Helen decided she wanted to talk, and in that talk, she talked about all the difficulties that blind people had at that time.
Sure.
Most of them were put into institutions. They couldn't work or anything.
Yeah.
And she asked the Lions who had sight, who had hearing. You know, Helen had no hearing either.
Right.
She asked them if they would not become knights for the blind to make sure that any preventable blindness could be solved, that blind people could find work, they could be educated like she had been.
Yeah.
And so the Lions at the convention voted unanimously, yes, let's become knights for the blind.
Yeah.
And ever since, that's hearing and blind and visual disabilities have been their primary goal, but there are many other things. For example, the Dexter Lions Club built a gazebo there in downtown Dexter.
Wow.
So, and there's other places where Lions have done this. So there's a lot of different things that Lions do, but most of them focus on these things, helping those with hearing and visual difficulties.
Sure, and sort of going into that with the vision and hearing impairments, I mean, I understand when we spoke before the show, the last school year, the Ann Arbor Area Lions Club provided vision screenings for 516 Ann Arbor area preschool children and collected 24 pairs of used hearing aids that were sent to be dismantled, sanitized, rebuilt, and made available to those in need. Can you share, again, why that's such an important thing with the Lions Club, and do you feel that those drives are successful, and why?
Yes, they are and actually what's not mentioned there is the fact that we each year collect 5,000 to 7,000 pair of used eyeglasses.
Oh, wow, okay.
In our community. Our club, over the years that we've been doing this, we've collected over 100,000 used eyeglasses.
Wow.
Yeah, probably it's close to about 150,000 now.
Sure.
And they are sent to a Lions Club in Grand Rapids where they're cleaned and measured so that teams then could take these glasses, go down to Central America or Mexico, where they can then measure the eyes of the people, give them a pair of glasses that most fit that prescription.
Yeah.
Many of these people never had glasses before. And so the people in Ann Arbor are helping people in Mexico and Central America see in a way that they haven't been able to their whole lives.
See, and that is just, in my opinion, if I may, I think that is wonderful, what you're doing to give back not only to the disability community in Ann Arbor and locally, but around the world. And I think that is just wonderful, wonderful stuff.
Could I mention one
Sure.
more thing?
Yeah.
Our particular club was responsible in 1957 encouraging the University of Michigan Hospital to start a cornea collection agency, which became the Michigan Eye Bank.
Oh, wow.
And now it's called
Okay.
Eversight. In fact,
Sure.
this organization is now recognized worldwide, Eversight, as a world leader in collecting corneas,
Okay.
providing those corneas for surgeons to transplant onto people who've lost their vision because their corneas have been damaged or they had a genetic predisposition that caused them to lose sight that way.
Sure.
Over
Wow.
each year, over 1,000 Michigan residents get a cornea transplant that restores their sight.
Is that
So
right?
we're following what Helen Keller wanted.
Sure.
Let's restore sight to those that we can restore sight to.
And that's not to be punny, but that is a great vision. I mean, the
Yes.
fact that you guys have, done
It was our
that.
club.
Well, that's right.
This club in Ann Arbor started that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. And, and I want to talk a little bit, too, to you, Austin Shepard. You're a member of the WISD Leo Club. And can you tell me a little bit about that and then why you wanted to become involved?
Sure. The Washtenaw International Intermediate School District Leo Club, actually the Leo Club in general, there are several Leo clubs throughout the world in many different countries. The Leo Club is basically a subgroup of the Lions Club, and it's focused on young people aged 11 to 18, and we focus on service projects throughout our community. We do several service project activities throughout the year. And basically our goal is to bring young people into the circuit of doing social activities and also service activities in a way that benefits the community. The reason how I got actually involved in the Leo Club is my mom had this friend who was also visually impaired called
Sure.
Luann Bullington.
Okay.
And we had already been doing some stuff, the visually impaired kids in the community. We'd already been doing peer groups, and we'd already been doing other activities over the years. And, my mom was like, hey, can this group form a Lions Club?
Yeah,
and
sure.
I think, John, you were there when we did
Yes.
this. And you guys were like, oh, no, they can't start a Lions Club. You got to be 19.
Oh.
And then my mom was like, well, then what can we do? And
Right.
they said, well, you can start a Leo Club.
Mm-hmm.
And basically their description of it was that the Leo Club is an organization that is for ages 11 to 18.
Mm-hmm.
It does a lot of the similar stuff that the Lions Club do. We focus mostly on vision,
Okay.
fighting blindness, and
Sure.
also hearing impairments. But we do a lot of other cool service projects too. We focus a lot on what we refer to as houselessness and poverty.
Okay.
Which is basically the idea of people that need help, with their living situation or,
Yeah.
getting something to eat every day,
Sure.
different things like that. We do a lot of work with an organization here in town called the Alpha House.
Right. I'm familiar with
And
that.
they house families with young kids who are in situations where they cannot live for themselves, and they need help with, things like, getting a job, making sure that their kids, are in a protected area so that nobody's living out on the street.
Sure. And you mentioned service projects in your response earlier. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because you were involved recently in March with a service project to benefit Ronald McDonald House, and the participants explored social inclusion by participating in disability-related simulation activities that focused on empathy and compassion. So can you talk a little bit about the fundraiser for Ronald McDonald House, but also the simulations?
Absolutely, Zach. So on March 26th of this year, we collaborated, the Ann Arbor CAIL, the Center of Independent Living, and myself and my family. We teamed up with the Ann Arbor YMCA and their Youth Volunteer Corps.
Sure.
And we thought of the idea of maybe doing a service project because we had seen that the Ronald McDonald House was in need of toiletries, which is basically the stuff that you brush your teeth with, and
Sure.
Hygiene equipment, that sort of thing, and also with breakfast. We found that many people who enter the Ronald McDonald House, don't have the means or the time to function themselves. by making their own food, feeding themselves. So they rely on volunteers to, provide that for the guests at the Ronald McDonald House. And the simulation part of it, basically what that was all about was first all of us, we had some Leos there, we had kids from the CIL, from their youth group there.
Sure.
And of course, all the kids from the YVC club at the Ann Arbor Y
Sure.
were all there. And first we talked about disability etiquette. We talked about some basic rules about what kind of things, courtesy you want to give when you're around people with disabilities. Use people first language.
Right.
Don't pet the service dog. Some of the basic stuff.
Sure.
And we had some very detailed and deep discussions about it.
Oh, great.
And then we went ahead and we broke up into groups and we tried some simulations. We had several different simulations. Probably the one that I think was very successful, and I think that was very important, was the wheelchair simulation.
Okay. Now, what was that? How did you guys simulate that?
The way that you simulate that is you have a subject would sit in the wheelchair.
Sure.
And basically you would teach them how they move around in the wheelchair.
Okay.
And the rules are you can't move your feet along the ground like this.
Okay.
So if you try to do this with your feet, you can't do that.
Yeah, sure.
Individuals who are using the wheelchairs typically don't have that option.
Sure.
So we practice using the wheelchair only with our hands.
Okay.
Powering ourselves only by using the tabs with our hands.
My gosh, that sounds like a challenge. I mean, do you feel, as a younger person, do you feel that those simulations are helpful?
They are very helpful, and especially if you do them at a young age.
Sure.
That's the very reason why in Ann Arbor we have the disability awareness workshops at the elementary schools, is because at a young age, kids learn faster.
Sure.
Kids learn in ways that are more acute,
Right.
and kids learn in ways, that are more in-depth.
Right.
Than often as adults we, kind of throw things over our head per se.
Sure.
And we don't necessarily think through everything, and we
Sure.
aren't exactly willing all the time to learn new things.
Right. And John, you're nodding your head, so do you want to touch on that as well? I mean, what's your opinion?
Well, I agree with Austin very much on that. I wanted to also talk about briefly Austin, you remember the place where that organization meeting first happened?
Yeah, I remember that.
Where was it?
For some reason, I can't remember exactly.
The Wild Swan Theater.
Oh yeah, the Wild Swan Theater. That's
Yes.
right.
And you just had that on your program.
That's right. And and I was going to ask you about that because Wild Swan was just here. They were sitting right on this set where you are.
Yes.
And so talk about, John, what you've done with the Wild Swan. The Lions Club has had an integral part in helping the Wild Swan.
Well, we started, I think, in 1996 donating money to them.
Sure.
And then a couple of years later, we gave them a very large amount of money, over $3,000.
Wow.
To help them purchase
Sure.
the item that you were talking about at your last session, and that is the device that a blind child or person
Right.
would wear with a plug in the ear.
Right, the earbud. Yeah.
And the earplug, and then in these plays that the Wild Swan Theater was putting on,
Sure.
there would be a person up in a soundproof room who would be describing between dialogue on the stage
Yeah.
for that person what's happening on the stage.
Sure.
Of course, a blind person not able to see it.
Right.
But the description, allows them to understand better what's happening in the play. And a curious thing just happened at that time because my son had just gotten a job at WGBH doing descriptive videos.
Is that right?
And
Wow.
so I understood what the process was, and so
Yeah.
I was a director of the club.
Okay.
I encouraged them to get involved because I knew exactly what they were talking about.
Wow.
Descriptive video or describing what's going on
Sure.
right there so that the person could understand.
I mean, what coincidence is that, though?
Yes,
you're
incredible.
you're doing, but you know what? I feel like there are no coincidences, and I think that that's great
There could
that
be.
that you guys have done that. I mean, do you know, has the Lions Club, because they're a global organization, have you helped to implement that at other professional theaters as well?
I understand that that's not been happening from what your program last week talked about that.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
other place sort of tried it.
Sure.
But Wild Swan is not aware of any other theater that's doing that,
Sure.
from what I understand.
Sure.
But it takes a specially trained person to be able to do that description
Right.
in that brief amount of time
Sure.
between dialogues.
Sure.
And so, yeah.
And I remember from a very young age going to
Yeah.
Wild Swan Theater. with my elementary school, and sometimes my mom would just take me to the Wild Swan just for a day out to go see a play.
Yeah.
And I remember when my mom first met the director over there this was a long time ago. This was like 11 years ago.
Yeah.
And when she had first heard about these new devices, and she was like, wow, they really have these?
Yeah.
I mean, it was so new to us. I mean, we didn't know that that was even available. And then we discovered, obviously, WGVH along a while later. And now, actually, that organization has gotten so large that now almost every movie that comes out in the theater, when you purchase it on DVD, you're going to find that it has descriptive audio.
Really?
That's how much it's expanded.
Wow.
Now, there still are some gaps.
Okay.
You know, there's still areas where there needs to be improvement.
Sure.
But for the most part, you know, the movie companies, and the industry,
Yeah.
you know, are generally becoming more and more accepting of the concept of descriptive video.
No, and I think that's wonderful, Austin. Do you know, like, how recently they were implementing that by chance?
It's very recently.
Okay.
When they started making them on VHS, I've still got some of the old VHS tapes.
Sure.
Only a very select few movies were, you know, described.
Yeah.
It's an expensive process.
Okay.
You know, they have to have a computer. What the computer does is it measures the amount of time between dialogue in a movie.
Okay.
And then a person has to write a description that fits into that empty space.
Okay.
And then you have to hire somebody like you to do the announcing.
Okay.
And that's all recorded, of course, at the same time that the thing is playing. So
wow.
And I think
it's a complicated process. It's expensive to do.
Right.
And I think when it was first starting, I think it was only like 2 movie companies that were doing it.
Oh, really?
I think it was like 20th Century Fox and then someone else.
Sure.
Disney only very recently started doing it consistently.
Well, no,
Okay.
they were doing Disney way in the 90s.
Oh, were
they
they?
were? Well, they were doing a lot
because
of...
I have at home a tape that was produced in the 90s.
Okay. Sure.
Well, for the most part, you know, most of my collection aren't Disney movies.
Yeah.
I think I've only got like 1.
Yeah.
I think that was just Cinderella. Maybe some of their more
Aladdin,
popular.
They did Aladdin.
They did Aladdin too.
Sure.
I don't know all they did, but from my experience, it seemed like a lot of them were, you know, from Fox.
Sure. But either way,
And,
gentlemen, I mean, I
Paramount.
think that that's a great leap forward, the fact
Yeah.
that they're implementing that. Because I remember watching a film recently, and my brother-in-law had sat back and he said, Zach, well, you know, they have captioning, you know, for those that can't hear.
Right.
But what about those that want to see a film and can't
Right.
see? And so we were sort of having that debate back and forth. But now I can go and I can say, hey, look, they have descriptive audio now.
Yeah.
And actually, there are actually a few movie theaters now. Actually, this is just starting. There
Okay.
are not that many movie theaters that offer
Sure.
the headsets. There is one theater in particular in Kalamazoo, Michigan,
Okay.
that does.
Okay.
And that's the Alamo Draft House. They serve dinner and everything when you go to your movie.
Oh, wow.
And as long as you have your own headphones,
Yeah.
they don't give you the headsets
Okay.
at most of these theaters.
Okay.
You can plug into like a jack,
Sure.
and you know, you can listen to the audio description. Or like we did at our event that we had last year in Kalamazoo, we had our state Michigan Parents Children with Visual Impairments convention.
Okay.
Last fall was in Kalamazoo.
Sure.
And we actually asked people at the theater, because most of us were visually impaired, if they could broadcast the descriptive video,
Yeah.
because we went out to watch a movie that night,
Sure.
over the loudspeakers, so that everybody could hear it, regardless
Wow.
of whether they had headphones or not.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. And I think the fact that they allowed the theater to do that and have everyone experience it, you know, that's the definition of inclusion.
Yes.
But this
Absolutely.
question is for both of you. Can you share a great memory both of you have of being involved with the Lions as well as the WISD Leo Club? And of course, John, we'll have you go first. But I mean, you guys have been involved, I'm sure, for quite a while now. And, you know, there's got to be one great memory that you can share with us.
Well, there's actually, Zach, there's so many great memories. I was just looking at some old pictures I have on my computer, and before there was a Leo Club, our club was donating money to WISD.
Okay.
You know, because of the program that Kathy Christensen is running there.
Sure.
And we have a picture of us out at the park, and it turns out that you were there as a young
Oh,
young boy.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, before you were Leo. And,
He was there. He doesn't. Even
yeah, he was
no,
there.
it's
I
fine.
don't remember that. When
Yeah.
was this?
Oh, it was quite a while ago.
He's
but
everywhere.
Yeah.
Gallup Park, I assume.
Yeah,
that would have been
Gallup
the big
Park.
part.
Yeah. And we were presenting this big. We made this huge big check, like that.
Oh,
so
yeah,
you
right.
can see it, and presenting that to the. Well, we did that annually. Actually, it was a cooperation with the other 2 Lions. There are 3 Lions clubs in Ann Arbor.
Okay.
We're the noon club. There's a morning club and there's an evening club.
Okay.
And so we all get together, and we were contributing to that money
Yeah.
for the WISD. And so that was a great time to be able to do that, and then to just accidentally run across that picture when I was sorting through.
Yeah, that is so funny.
There you were.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
and
I know.
it's so great, Austin, that you have a
That was
history
like 10
like
years
that.
ago.
Yeah.
That was like 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Changed a lot since then.
Yeah. No, that's great.
He's grown a bit since then.
Oh my goodness.
I'm
Well,
like 6'2" now. So.
Oh yeah, a lot taller than me. But no, so I mean that's great. And then Austin, do you have a one memory that singles out to you as a great memory so far of being involved with the WISD Leo Club?
I really appreciate that you asked that,
Sure.
actually, Zach, because just recently we were actually at the Alpha House, and this was last month.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a new group of kids and families that had just gotten in. And usually the kids, just to clarify something, usually the families that are there, they're only allowed to stay for a certain amount of time
Sure.
until they can, get their act together and, try to find a place to live on their own independently. And I remember we were there and we were doing this Dr. Seuss themed, kind of game night, just fun carnival games, that sort of thing. And I remember this one girl came up to me. I'm leaving her anonymous, don't worry.
Okay.
This one girl came up to me because I was wearing a Cat in the Hat costume. And she was like, "Can I wear your hat?" And I was like, "Sure." And she was dancing around.
Oh yeah.
With the Cat in the Hat, hat thingy
Yeah.
on her head, and she was pretending to be the Cat in the Hat, and that
Yeah.
was just really cool because, I don't think most of those kids don't get to experience that.
Sure.
At least the kids that find the families and the kids that find their way, to the Alpha House. It's just a joyous experience.
Well,
Something a lot of us take for granted.
Exactly.
To be honest.
Well, exactly, Austin. I think you bring up a great point. All of us need to be grateful for the opportunities that we're given, but also I think it's wonderful too that both of you continue to spread joy to the community and give back, and I think that's a great, great memory, Austin. But I also wanted to ask both of you, and I'll start with you, John. I mean, for those that are watching now and say, wow, this Lions organization seems wonderful, and I'd love to get involved locally wherever I am, how can they get involved? How can they get in contact with you? And how can they become a member?
I tell you, Zach, we're always looking for new members.
Okay.
We've been increasing. We are growing as a club. We just hit 51 for a long. We haven't been that way for a long time. But
Okay.
But our club president is Lou Ann Bullington.
Okay.
And her telephone number is 769-0949. But you can also, if you're computer literate,
Sure.
AnnArborLions.org.
Okay, AnnArborLions.org.
And if you want to know more about what Lions do internationally,
Sure.
Lions Clubs, those are plural, both
Sure.
of them, lionsclubs.org, and you'll get onto the international website.
Okay.
So both of those are good places to find out all the different kinds. They do many more things than we've been able to cover here today,
Sure,
of course.
sure, of course.
Most people don't know they're one of the first disaster responses. When the tornado hit Dexter,
Sure.
$10,000 immediately went from Lions Club International to help that club buy blankets, water,
Wow.
and so forth for those citizens.
Is that right?
Immediately.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's wonderful. And then Austin, for those that are younger viewers that are watching the program right now, how can they get involved with the WISD Leo Club?
Certainly. So we have meetings once a month, usually once a month during the school year. We meet at the Neutral Zone, which is 301 West Washington Street, I believe. It's in downtown Ann Arbor. For those of you who are familiar with the Neutral Zone, they do a lot of other cool programming as well. But we rent out space at the Neutral Zone for our meetings. Usually we do the third Thursday of the month. So if any young people are interested, and especially if you go to the Neutral Zone or hang out there or participate in their programs, feel free. It's open to middle school and high school students from all over Washtenaw County. So you don't have to be, going to Ann Arbor Public Schools. You can be from anywhere in the county and join our club.
That's great.
Our next meeting is going to be on Thursday, I believe May 19th. And it's going to be at the Neutral Zone from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. So if any young people are interested, feel free to come out. We usually meet in the second floor conference room in the neutral zone, for those of you that are familiar with the building and how it's laid out.
All right, wonderful. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you both for being on the show. Really appreciate it, and one of these days, let's do this again, huh?
Great.
Absolutely,
wonderful.
Zach.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today, but I would like to thank John and Austin for joining me and hope that you enjoyed the program. I'd like to thank Phil Booz for all his work and wonderful direction. Thank you to the crew, and as always, stay awesome, Ann Arbor.